Hello, everyone, and I am your host, Geoff Exstrom, and welcome to the Inside Nebraska YouTube page. I am Geoff Exstrom, volleyball staff writer for Inside Nebraska, and joining me this week as Nebraska prepares for its East Coast trip to face Rutgers on Friday and then Maryland on Sunday. And joining me now is Diamondback volleyball beat writer Tanner Malinowski. Tanner, thank you so much for joining me. You cover Maryland as a beat this season, but thanks for taking the time to chat some volleyball.
Of course, Geoff. Yeah, thanks, Geoff. Thanks for having me. Should be fun.
So Tanner, Maryland so far this season, pretty good, pretty decent results. They stand at 9-5 on the year. They're 0-2 to start in Big Ten play, but this is a veteran team. They return 11 players from last season's roster, only lost a handful. I mean, kind of just give us a rundown of who are the players to watch out for on this Maryland squad.
So I think when you talk about top returning talent, the two names that would jump out at me would be Raynell Jones and then Sam Sire. So Raynell Jones is a middle blocker, and she kind of had a choice actually, because after last season, that was technically her senior year, but then she chose to use that extra year of COVID eligibility, and she came back for one final run, and she's been the anchor to Maryland's pretty stout defense throughout the years. She led the country, I believe, last year in blocks per set, and I know she's doing the same so far this year. She is, I think, 34 blocks maybe away from setting the all-time program record for total blocks, so she's definitely a force in the middle of the floor. And then Sam Sire is probably the most a dependable outside hitter. She's a junior. She led the team in kills last year. She's doing the same this season. And again, I think if I could describe her in a word, it would be dependable. She's not out, I don't think she's the most explosive outside hitter on the team, but she definitely has some leap, and she's very good. I've just kind of working the whole floor, and she does a good job of just kind of spotting up and just kind of pinpointing her targets.
Well, let's talk about that block, like you mentioned, Tanner. I mean, Adam Hughes, 9th season overall in College Park, 5th as a head coach. He has helped turn this program around into having the best block the past 2 seasons. Obviously, Jones is a big part of that. I mean, what makes this team so good at blocking? Like, it's kind of insane about how good they are at that aspect of volleyball.
And yeah, I mean, really the thing that stands out to me is that they're not really a tall team. Jones is 6'3", and then they have a pit transfer, Anastasia Russ, who is 6'5". But still, other than that, they're not like a giant team like Nebraska is. And so I think really, when I've talked to Hughes, he just always, he really preaches just the fundamentals, and just it's really nothing special. It's just doing the little things right, and just the repetition and consistency within that. It's something that he really preaches. I don't think there's necessarily like any special formula to it. I think it's just a matter of like a discipline and just everybody doing their job.
Yeah, I mean, this program is just steadily built up with Hughes. I mean, 19-13 a year ago, one of their best seasons in recent memory. They come into this year 9-5. So, Tanner, kind of take me through, what was that non-conference play? How did that go? What did that look like for them? I know they went to 4 tournaments in the non-conference. So how did that play out for the Terrapins?
Well, the most important thing about it, I would say, and again, this was something that Hughes told me, was that they really wanted to challenge themselves this year with their non-conference schedule. Last season they went 12-0 in non-conference, but Hughes was just saying that perhaps it didn't really prepare them all that well, or just as well as it could have, just for the intensity of Big Ten play. So that was something that they really wanted to focus on this year. And so their first tournament was at home. It was in College Park, the Maryland Invite. They played Rhode Island and Navy, swept them both. And then they challenged themselves a bit with Florida Gulf Coast, a team that obviously made the tournament last year. And they lost to them 3-1, but, there were a lot of positive takeaways from that match. So they finished their opening weekend 2-1. And then they actually went up to New York for the Stony Brook tournament. They played Stony Brook and then Georgetown. Excuse me. And they swept them both. Offensively, they really shined. And then Saturday, it was kind of the same deal as it was for the first tournament, where they kind of came out a little slow and they ended up falling to South Florida, which was kind of a surprise. Given South Florida wasn't the most, I guess, stacked team on their schedule. And then, so after the first two tournaments, they came out 4-2, and then they took a trip to California, which was something they hadn't done since 2016. They played a match against San Diego State on Friday, and then followed that up with, actually, yeah, that was part of a doubleheader. And then they played Sacramento State too. And again, same deal, won both games Friday, and then dropped the finale on Saturday to Arizona. But again, that was a really good offensive weekend from the Terps. That was something that stood out to me. I know they had, I think, 50 kills in both the San Diego State and the Arizona game, if I believe, or if I'm correct. So I think the offensive, so the offense for them really came alive, in that tournament. And then they rounded that out with a trip to Virginia, where they played Mercer and then East Carolina, and they swept them both. Those games, it was weird. It was kind of like each game kind of had an opposite story. First game of the day against Mercer was very defensive oriented. I think they had 17 and a half blocks. I think that was a season high for them. And then against East Carolina, it was just not that the defense didn't play well, but, just offensively, they just kind of manhandled East Carolina. And then on Saturday, they've swept Virginia in 3 sets. So they closed out the non-conference slate at 9-3. But, I think just throughout that gauntlet, the main thing that really, again, that Hughes touched on was just a matter of reducing the unforced errors and just staying consistent. That was something, that was present even in their wins. I feel like every now and then they would start out kind of slow. They would just kind of make a lot of mistakes on offense. They would just kind of misfire on some balls and be out of position and things like that. And so, that's something, again, that they're still working on now, even 2 games into Big Ten play, because, they're 9-5. And the first set has dictated every single game that they've been in. They're 9-0 when they win the first set, and when they lose, they're 0-5. So, so far, just how they start, how they come out, that's been a pretty good indicator of, how the match is going to go.
That's a pretty telltale stat right there, is the 9-0 when they win their first set. And I mean, when you look at 3 of their 5 losses, they've been close. 3 5-set losses there, including against Indiana last time out. And Tanner, let's move into that conference play. 0-2 last weekend. They lost to Illinois on that Friday, 3-1. And then they lost in a 5-setter to Indiana. So kind of take me through those 2 matchups and what's occurred so far through those first 2 Big Ten matches.
So I think the story with the Illinois match was that, they didn't finish. Again, obviously they fell in the first set, but then they bounced back to take set 2. And then, set 3 was just kind of, the offense really tailored off. I think they had, if I'm not mistaken, I think 9 attack errors in just that third set alone. I think, Illinois only needed, I think, 10 kills in that third set. And, that was the set that they won pretty comfortably. But, in the fourth set, Maryland turned it around. they were actually up 23-20 in that fourth set, and things were looking pretty good for them. And then, it was just weird. It just all fell apart fast. Illinois took a timeout, when they were down 3, and out of the timeout, they just came out and scored the next 5 points. Just like that. There was just 4 straight kills, and then I think a block assist to end it. And so that was just really, that was a really tough loss, just because of how suddenly it happened. Obviously there was no guarantee what happens in that set 5 if it gets to that point, but still, it was just obviously very disappointing for them that they couldn't at least give themselves a chance in that. And then moving over to Sunday, it was weird. They just couldn't stay out of their own way on Sunday. Again, started out slow. They lost the first 2 sets, and I think something that really killed them was serving errors. They had 17, which was a season high for them. They had 4 in the first set, and they had 12 across the next 3 sets. And they just really could never go on any sort of run, just because when it seemed like they were finally gonna kick it in a high gear and take over, they would just serve it straight into the net, or they would serve along, what have you. But it was just super, you could tell it was just kind of frustrating for them that they just really couldn't stop spinning their wheels. But the thing about that was that they showed a sense of resiliency. They dropped the first 2 sets, and then they were pushed to match point in set 3, but they battled back, won that set. They won set 4 pretty convincingly, and then they actually had a 6-2 lead in that 5th set. And again, there was a service error. It was their only one of the set, and it was their last one today, but it proved to be huge. That it started up a 4-0 Indiana run. Actually, I think now that I think of it, it was a couple point. Yeah. So they were up 8-6, service error. Indiana scores the next 4 points, and then Maryland battled back. But when it came down to it, that's what kind of came back to hurt them. They lost 17-15 in that 5th set, and so it was really just defensively they were there. I don't think that was the issue. It was just, again, like Hughes has been talking about so much, it was just those not even mental mistakes, but just unforced errors. Again, just serving and then hitting balls too long. It just really plagued them throughout the weekend.
Well, they are 0-2 to start off Big Ten play. Have a chance to rebound this weekend, but Tanner, let's discuss their offense, the Terrapins offense. We know their identity on the defensive side, but they have Sydney Dowler running it as the setter on the offense. What does the offense bring to the table? What do you see from that side of volleyball for them?
So offensively, if I could kind of sum it up in a word, I would say methodical. They're really not trying to blitz teams or just just take over completely. They're very deliberate, I would say. Let me double check, but I'm pretty sure they're last in the Big Ten, or they're at least close to the bottom. Yeah, they're last in the Big Ten in kills per set. They're hitting, with that said, their hitting percentages, it's up there. They're hitting 236. So, it isn't like the offense is, it's not like they're leaning on their defense per se, but it's not the most explosive offense in the conference. But then, still they have the, Sam Sire is obviously pretty reliable. And then actually one of, we've talked a little bit about the continuity of the team and just all of the returning players, but, one of their freshmen has actually made a huge impact on Layla Ivy. This is her first year. She's she's an outside hitter. She replaced Paula Nechaparuka, I think I said that right, who graduated last year. And, the thing about Layla Ivy is that she's just freakishly athletic. She's crazy explosive. She can jump out of the gym. So her and Sire have really, I think, formed that nice, I think 1-2 combo, 1-2 punch. And then they've also gotten a lot of contributions from Layla Ricks. She was actually a middle blocker her first 2 years at College Park, and then this season they switched her to right side hitter, or she's a pin hitter, and so she's had a couple more, or she's had more opportunities to produce from the offensive end. And then Raynell Jones, she does chip in as well. I think she's top 5 kills leaders on the team for them. And then another newcomer, Anastasia Russ. She hasn't played in as many sets, but she's still a pretty reliable contributor on the offensive end. She is, she's 5th on the team with 78 kills. And so, she's been a nice alternative to, maybe if they're kind of struggling from the outside, they can kind of get the ball to her in the middle. She can kind of do some damage that way.
Is there something missing from the offense that could make them more lethal? I mean, you mentioned they're just not the most explosive. What's missing? Is it scheme, or is it some personnel they need? What do they need there to make it more efficient?
It's hard to say because, I feel like in a way they kind of get some of their offense from their defense. I feel like they're not, I feel like they're not necessarily struggling in a sense. It doesn't seem like they're trying to do something and it's just not working. I think, but still, I wouldn't say that they're complacent with their pace, but I think, maybe if they really wanted to be more explosive, it would just really come down to pushing the pace. But still, I feel like at that time, at the same time, it's kind of like a trade-off. If you want to push the pace, then maybe you're sacrificing some of your prowess on the defensive side. And so, based on how it's gone this season, I don't think they're really, they're not really in much of that mindset to really change anything on offense. Again, it's just been just a matter of limiting the mistakes. I feel like they know they're not the fastest team, they're not the most explosive team on offense, but I don't think they're necessarily trying to there's really no void for them to fill. I think it's just a matter of cutting down on the attack errors, really.
Well, when Nebraska walks into the Xfinity Pavilion on Sunday, it will be a sellout. First time this year that they've sold out. Tanner, what does this match mean to the volleyball program and the community? Because they're obviously coming out. Obviously, Husker fans are part of that. But also, what does this match mean with it being sold out?
It's just definitely huge. It's just a big opportunity for the program. I talked to Hughes today. He was just talking about how it's just a unique opportunity that not only do they get to play on national TV on Friday night when they take on Michigan State, but just the atmosphere that comes with playing in a sold out crowd in front of a top 5 team. He's just said just how awesome it is for the program. And again, it's not something that preparation wise, they're not really changing anything. They don't care who they're playing. They're going to give them their, they're going to give them all that they have. It's really, they don't do anything special. There's no special motivational quotes or anything like that. They know what they have to do, and I don't think they'll really be intimidated by them. Last year, Big Ten opener again at home, sold out crowd. I think Wisconsin came in. They were number 2 in the nation at the time, and Maryland knocked them off. And obviously, Wisconsin won the national championship. So, and again, there's a lot of players on this year's team that were on the court when that happened last year. So, I don't think they're really intimidated. They've kind of been in this situation before, and they know what it takes to win. I don't think they're really going to let the moment get too big for them. I think it's just as long as they just stay grounded and stick to the fundamentals, they'll put themselves in the best shot to win.
Final question for you, Tanner. What's the blueprint for Maryland to knock off Nebraska on Sunday?
I think starting fast, obviously, would be a key. Again, like I said before, when they've lost the first set, they haven't won the match. And but again, I think it really comes down to just minimizing the attack errors and the inconsistencies. He's been telling me that, that he doesn't think, they've necessarily reached their full potential yet. And again, I think the miscues have been a big culprit of that. Again, I don't think there's really anything that's missing from the game plan or the strategy. I think it's all there. I think it's just a matter of putting it all together. But, I think if they come out hot in the first set, that'll give them some confidence, not just because of who they're playing, but just, the fact that, hey, we actually, we're playing well in the first set. We won, now we're kind of in a position where we're comfortable. And, when you factor in just the, having the home crowd there and having it being a, sold out place, that'll give them a giant boost as well. And so, I think starting fast is the key. And so, ideally for them, if they can just kind of go on a couple runs in the first frame and maybe limit the, attack errors. I don't think they necessarily have to hit out of this world. But still, they just kind of cut down on the mistakes, maybe get a few blocks in there as well. And, they take that first set, they can really feed off the energy that the home crowd will bring. And, hopefully they can just kind of, I don't think they'll be able to pull away per se, because obviously, in Nebraska, that's, they're a pretty stacked team, but, still, it's just, they get out to that fast start. That's huge. Again, not saying that, if they lose the first set, they're doomed. We saw last Sunday, they, lost the first two, came back, pushed it to a fifth. But again, I think, winning that first set, that would probably be that would give them the best shot to win.
There you have it from Tanner Malinowski himself, fast start key for Maryland on Sunday against Nebraska. Tanner, thank you so much for joining me. I'm glad you hopped on to talk some volleyball with me.
Appreciate it, Geoff. Thank you.
Tanner Malinowski from the Diamondback out at Maryland. Huskers and Terrapins first serve set for 1 p.m. Eastern time. That's 12 p.m. here in Central Time here in Nebraska. That one will have first serve on BTN+. Make sure to go to nebraska.rivals.com for all the preview coverage of all Nebraska athletics, whether that be football, basketball, volleyball, and more. Thank you so much for watching this preview of Nebraska and Maryland. I've been your host, Geoff Exstrom, and thanks again to Tanner Malinowski of the Diamondback. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time.